and welcome to another pen video from me, Penultimate Dave. So I have here another 10 pens currently inked up this week. I think let's go through these briefly one by one. We'll go through them in a little bit more detail and then we'll do a writing sample. So from left to right we have the Visconti, and this is the Speakeasy. We have the Visconti St Basil. We have a Visconti Opera Master Crimson Tide, a Visconti Luxor Obelisk, a Visconti Watermark, a Visconti Istos Arachnis, a Visconti Belgica, a Visconti Wallstreet, and this is the limited edition. We have a Visconti Corsani 90, and we have a Visconti Corsani Octagonal. So I think let's just go through these in a little bit more detail here. So this is a really lovely, stunning celluloid. This celluloid is from the Speakeasy, and this has been made into a number of different pens, namely the St Basil here, but the Speakeasy. And there's also been some Chatterley Luxury exclusives as well. It's a beautiful celluloid of rich and sort of rich blue and red. You can see here. So if I just show you this up close, you can see that that celluloid is really beautiful. Now, this pen is faceted on the caps and also on the what would be the end cap or filling knob here, and then the rest of the pen is round. And I like that because it stops this pen rolling around the desk without having to have facets on the pen itself. I always cap the pen when I put it down. I always do with my pens. Now, this is the Speakeasy because you can basically change what drink you put in here. And you can see there, at the moment, it says whiskey. Now, the strange thing is, I said drink, not ink, didn't I? Well, yes. So if I unscrew the blind cap here, there is no piston or power vac, but it does give me a sort of container here which holds 6 milliliters of ink or whiskey, or yeah, I'm probably not going to put ink in there. I'm going to put a drink in there, and that you can not only put whatever tipple that you like in there, but you can also change this as well. So you can rotate this, and let me see what that says here. Rum. And I can put it back to whiskey again. So you can change a lot of different flavors that you might actually hold in this pen. Now, it does come with a really sort of, unfortunately, you cannot fit a converter, an international converter. So you normally have to put a cartridge in here. I've put a Kaweco squeeze converter, and that works just well for me. This has a 23 cap palladium medium nib, and it also came with a hip flask as well, a beautiful red hip flask which I do use, and I do actually, when we were back actually going to pen shows, I actually would have a couple of hip flasks in my suitcase, and one of them was the Visconti hip flask full of whiskey. So that I've never really felt the need to fill this pen up with a drink because ultimately I haven't needed to, but maybe I will do at some point. I may break a tradition there. This comes with a My Pen finial here, and this is just a red My Pen dome. The next pen here I have is made of the same celluloid as the Speakeasy. And you can see this here again. It's that beautiful red and blue celluloid, but this is the St Basil, and this is a work of art. This sort of inlaid sort of inscription there of the St Basil in Russia. It really is beautiful. So I absolutely love this. I'm glad I was able to pick this up. I passed on this pen. It was being sold ultimately as a set with a fountain pen and a rollerball. You can see there, that's a 23 cat palladium medium nib. So it was being sold as a set, and I passed on it in October at one London pen show, and it changed hands between sellers, and by the following February, it was in the hands of one of my friends, John at St John's Pens. So I decided I would, at that point, then buy the set. And I ended up paying a little bit more because I could have got it cheaper if I bought it the first time round at the previous seller. But I'm glad that I picked it up. It's a beautiful, beautiful pen. So I have that one inked up, and this is a PowerVac double reservoir filler, unlike the Speakeasy, which really doesn't have contain much ink at all. The next one here is a pen that I lusted after early on in my collecting, and I was able to pick this one up, and it's the Visconti Opera Master Crimson Tide, and this is a beautiful pen. Yeah, it's an Opera Master, holds 2.5 milliliters of ink. It's a double reservoir. I'm going to refill this with another red ink. It's number 36 or 38. It's a really lovely pen. It's quite heavy. It's not a light pen, but I do have that one inked up today as well, or will have, so you'll be able to see that there. The next pen I have inked up is the Visconti Luxor Obelisk, and this is a working, sort of really amazing the way that this pen has been worked. It's a ebonite pen with makie and urushi. The workmanship that's gone into this pen is absolutely stunning. I love the vibrant colours here, the blues and the oranges, and it really is a beautiful, beautiful pen. Now the nib here is a medium 23 cat palladium nib, but you can see there that is a lovely, lovely pen. So I have that one inked up with me this week as well. So that again is another really lovely writing pen. I love how that one writes. This pen isn't inked up at the moment, but will be inked up shortly, and I'm going to ink this up with a different orange ink than I normally ink up. So this is the Visconti Watermark, and this is a beautiful pen. It's a solid silver sort of filigree here, and it's plated in 23 cat palladium. It's got a medium 23 cat palladium nib on there as well, and I love this pen. I love the weight of it. I love the feel of it. It was a pen that I got probably early on in my Visconti days, and it was a pen that it was, I think, one of the pens that was out of my price range, and I decided that because there wasn't anything else that I liked the look of, that I would pay a little bit more and get that pen. And I'm glad I did, and I'm glad I did with a lot of the pens that I pushed the boundaries on to buy, because if I hadn't, then I wouldn't have them in my collection, and I like some of those pens a lot. So that one will be inked up. And then I have this one, and this is the Visconti Istos Arachnes. It's got a spider on the pen, hence Istos Arachnes, or Arachnes, but this is a beautiful pen. You can see there it's a medium 23 cat palladium nib. Now that feed has stained a little bit blue, because I do have normally a dark blue ink in there. It's a PowerVac double reservoir, and this is, if I can get it to, there you go, focus, 260 of 888. It's a brilliant pen. It's a pen that, again, I do like writing with. Not had it inked up that much recently, so it is a pen that I decided I would re-ink again. And then this pen that's inked up is the Visconti Belgica, and you can see the lovely lion's crest there on the body of that overlay. It's a beautiful pen, and you can see there it says Belgica, and it's number 25 of 175. So this is again a beautiful pen. You'll see there it's got a broad 18 karat gold old style nib from Visconti, from Bock, but this is it's a double reservoir power vac filler, and this writes like a broad should, very wet and broad, and I like it a lot. And then I have this one inked up, and this is the Visconti Watermark. This is a limited edition version, and this is a really lovely pen, and this was a present for me, and it's one that I will always cherish. It's a beautiful pen. You can see that stacked celluloid there just sparkle. It has a 23 karat palladium, and it's a 1.3mm stub nib, and you can see that stub nib there. It's just amazing. So it's a double reservoir power vac filler, and I just love it. I love writing with that. I typically don't write with a lot of stubs nowadays. It's something I need to get back into. It's just I need to I think dedicate them more to just letter writing, where I will write a letter on an A4 page of Tomare River, and at that point it gives me the I can write larger on that paper without, because I've got various line rule guides that sheets that I can put underneath, and it just allows me to write larger. So I should probably ink some stub nibs up more often. The next pen inked up is my beautiful Visconti Homo Sapiens Corsani 90, and you can see that there. That again, that stacked celluloid is beautiful. I'm glad I picked this up when I did from Stefano at Stilograph Corsani. It really is a beautiful pen. It comes with a two-tone, you can see there, 23 karat palladium. Now, it originally came with a medium nib, and I swapped it out for 1.3mm stub when I was going through that phase of liking stub nibs, and I've not swapped it back because I honestly do like how that writes. So I have that one inked up this week. And then I have this one, and again, it's another Visconti. It's technically a Homo sapiens, but it doesn't have the bands because it's the Octagonal from Stilograph Corsani. And again, you can see there that beautiful stacked celluloid there. It really does shine. This has a broad 23 karat palladium nib there, but that really is a beautiful, beautiful stacked celluloid. So I have that one inked up with me this week as well. So I think with that, let's go and do a writing sample. So the first pen is the Visconti Speakeasy. So I think let's do an ink swatch. And you can see that this is quite a wet writing nib. It's a lovely bouncy 23 karat palladium nib, and if you can get a bouncy nib, I do like these a lot, but they are harder to come by. So this is the Visconti, and it's the Speakeasy, and it is a medium 23 karat palladium nib. And then the ink in here, I normally actually put in Mont Blanc Corn Poppy Red, but I've actually put in KWZ Thief's Red, which is a really lovely bright red ink. Very similar, I would say, to Mont Blanc Corn Poppy Red in many ways. The next pen is the Visconti St Basil. So we'll do an ink swatch here. Now, I said that this is very similar to, the ink is very similar to the KWZ Thief's Red. But the more I think of this, actually, it is quite different as well. But let's see when this dries, see how similar this is. So this is the Visconti St Basil. And it's another medium 23 cat palladium nib. And the ink in here is Mont Blanc, Corn, Poppy, Red, which is a beautiful ink. And I'm just looking, because I bought some extra bottles of this, and I now have 5 bottles because Mont Blanc Corn Poppy Red did go out of production. I do hope it will come back into production at some point, but I did go ahead and buy some additional bottles there. I think I had 2 originally. I bought another 3. The next pen is the Visconti Opera Master Crimson Tide. So we'll do an ink swatch. And you can see that this is a super wet nib. It's also a stub nib as well. So this is a Visconti Opera Master. And it's the Crimson Tide. And let me do that. It's just open up the VAC there a little bit there. It's a 1.3. I think, yes, I'm going to need to do it a little bit more. 1.3, there you go, millimeter, and it's a 23 cat palladium nib. But that is a beautiful red ink, and the ink in here is diamine, and it's wild strawberry. But that is a beautiful red ink. The next pen is the Visconti Luxor Obelisk. So we'll do an ink swatch here. Now this is a medium nib, so it's a lot narrower than the previous nib, but still it's not a bad writing nib. So this is the Visconti Luxor Obelisk, and it is a medium 23 cat palladium nib, and then the ink in here is Pelican, Edelstein, Topaz, which is a really lovely sort of cerulean blue coloured ink. The next pen is the Visconti Watermark. So we'll do an ink swatch. Now I don't normally ink this pen up with this ink, but I thought I would give it a try and just see how well this ink looked. So this is the Visconti Watermark, and it is a medium 23 cat palladium nib, and then the ink in here is Caran d'Ache, and it's a D apostrophe ACHE, and it is Electric Orange. Which is quite a bright orange ink. The next pen inked up is the Visconti Istos Arachnus. So we'll do an ink swatch. Now, I don't normally ink this up with this ink, so I decided I would try and change to a different blue ink. So this is the Visconti Istos Arachnus, and it is a medium 23 cat palladium nib, and then the ink in here is Acamon, and it's number 1, and it's Passage Blau, which is actually quite a nice blue shade there. The next pen is the Visconti Belgica. So we'll do an ink swatch here. Now, this is a broad nib, and look at how broad this nib writes. This, to me, almost writes like a double broad. So this is a Visconti Belgica, and it is supposedly a broad nib, but this is more of a double broad. It's also very wet, so it'll be interesting to see if this feathers as well. I think it may do. Yes, it's going to. So this is a broad 18 cat gold nib. And then the ink in here is Acamon. And it's Shocking Blue, which is a very high sheening ink. The next pen inked up is the Visconti Watermark. Now we'll do an ink swatch. Now this is just like a paintbrush. It's even broader than the Belgica. This is a Visconti, and it's the Watermark. And it is a 1.3 millimeter 23 cat palladium stub nib, and this is going to feather like crazy on even on Oxford optic paper, which is normally pretty resistant. The ink in here is Diamine Chocolate Brown, which I really love having that pen inked up with. The next pen is the Visconti Corsani 90. So we'll do an ink swatch. And again, this is both another wet nib and another broad nib, because it is a stub nib. So this is the Visconti Corsani 90, and it is a 1.3 millimeter 23 cat palladium stub nib, and then the ink in here is Diamine Majestic Purple. Now, I know this this ink does feather a lot, especially in wet broad nibs, so this is also going to feather. I maybe at some point should switch to using Tomoe River, but I just tend to like, and I have a lot of this Oxford optic paper. And then the last pen is the Visconti Corsani Octagonal. So we'll do an ink swatch. Now this isn't as broad a nib, but it's still fairly broad. So this is the Visconti Corsani Octagonal. Now it's spelt with a 90 instead of a GO. It's a broad, and it's a 23 cat palladium sort of nib. I was going to say stub nib, it's a broad nib. And then the ink in here is the lovely Diamine Aqua Lagoon, which is a lovely sort of bluey green colour ink. So let's take a look at these pens inked up one more time. We have a Visconti Speakeasy, and this is has a medium 23 cat palladium nib inked up with KWZ Thief's Red. We have a Visconti St Basil in a medium 23 cat palladium nib inked up with Mont Blanc Corn Poppy Red. And you can see the difference between these two very wet nibs. Corn Poppy Red is slightly more darker crimsony, whereas KWZ Thief's Red is a little bit more of a brighter punchy red. I then have the Visconti Opera Master Crimson Tide in a 1.3mm 23 cat palladium stub nib inked up with Diamine Wild Strawberry. We have a Visconti Luxor Obelisk in a medium 23 cat palladium nib inked up with Pelican Edelstein Topaz. We have a Visconti Watermark in a medium 23 cat palladium nib inked up with Caran d'Ache Electric Orange. We have a Visconti Istos Arachnis in a medium 23 cat palladium nib inked up with Ackermann No. 1 Passage Blau. We have a Visconti Belgica in a broad 18 karat gold nib inked up with Ackermann Shocking Blue. We have a Visconti Watermark. Actually, I say Watermark. It's not a watermark. It's a Wallstreet. I don't know why I put Watermark there. It's a Visconti Wallstreet in a 1.3mm 23 cat palladium stub nib inked up with Diamine Chocolate Brown. We have a Visconti Corsani 90, and this is with a 1.3mm 23 cat palladium stub nib inked up with Diamine Majestic Purple. And then we have a Visconti Corsani Octagonal in a broad 23 cat palladium nib inked up with Diamine Aqua Lagoon. So there you have it. That's my currently inked pens for this week. Thanks for watching. Please like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next pen video. Bye bye.